All right, I think I'm recording. Okay.
There's a little red light sign.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay.
So the May 27th, 2021 special meeting of the Board of Selectmen will come to order. Please join us in the pledge.
Right. Oh, okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's always a lag on the phone. Okay, so we are going to start with interviews, and then we will do the bid for drainage. So sorry, Chris. So to start, Robert, since you're here in person, so just Elsie, so you know we're here with Robert Jones, and so we just have 3 interview questions. I think yours are in the packet on the second page. So I don't know if you wanted to start, Deb.
Sure. Let me get my glasses.
Oh, sorry.
So, we would like to know what pertinent experience you have serving on a board, commission, or in another volunteer capacity. In responding, please expand on what roles you played and what impact you had.
Right. So, first of all, thank you guys for having me here. I have not served on a board or commission in volunteer capacity. I do have leadership experience in the Air Force. I was the operations superintendent for rescue flying squadron in Africa. I was in charge of 90 people, making sure ops go on. So the coordination with people and the coordinating with outside entities is something I'm very familiar with. I understand that sometimes things don't happen right away, and it's kind of like the soft skill of telling people something and getting them to your side. Those are skills I'm quite used to. In other ways, and just so that was like a big one. In other ways, I'm a master sergeant in the Air Force, and that same kind of thing happens on a smaller scale still. Also, I work at EB as a hydrodynamics engineer, and coordinating with other departments within the company is something I do on a daily basis. So, no to the commissioner board, but yes with the organizational and trying to having a long-term goal and bringing it in is something I do quite often.
That's great. I saw Chris perk up with
that. No, that's fabulous. Thank you for your service and ongoing.
Thank you.
Do you want to do the second one?
Sure. So what do you think is, in your opinion, are the roles and responsibilities of the EDC?
Talking with Dave Hammond, there seemed to be, I'm not going to use the right word, but a survey that was going on either last year or the year before with strategic goals for the town to get business in there, which will increase housing prices. It seemed like residential is where the tax generates most of its income to support the schools are big key things. So those the key things on there, those are the priorities. A lot of it I saw was focused in pockets out. That's where I live. That waterway, it does seem like something that has a lot of potential. It's an optimization problem because you have houses, you have the river, which is good real estate, and you're trying to maximize it. So it seems like there's a lot there, and working through those problems and finding the best way is what seems to be the goal.
Thank you. And so you kind of already touched on this, but if you want to expand at all, just a little bit, any other kind of professional experience or specific skill set that you think you bring to the EDC, but you did a good job of answering that already. So.
I'm not Nostromo anymore, but I think I'm pretty good at people. I think I'm likable. I got a nice smile.
No, that's great, Robert. Thank you. And then do you have any questions for us? And I should have said this at the start. So basically the process, I was telling Robert this, Elsie, just at the beginning, because there's more than one applicant, we just out of transparency like to bring them in so both Deb and June have a chance to talk with people. We'll kind of sit on it. We'll never make a decision right then. So at the next meeting likely is when we would then you vote on the confirmation. And then like we said, because you guys are both amazing and we're so excited, we are also talking with Dave and the other members of the EDC to be sure everybody really wants to stay on and nobody wants to move on to other factors. So even if it doesn't happen right away, hopefully another seat will open in the foreseeable future. But any other questions for us?
No questions, but really I'm here because I want to serve. I'm happy to be part of the town, and I just feel like it'd be a good thing to contribute back to the place I want to live.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Robert. And you're very welcome to stay. Or you also, I know you have a million things I'm sure going on, so you're also welcome to head out whenever you want. And then we'll move over to Elsie.
I'll head out just
Okay, yeah.
not just staring.
Oh, yes.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Okay.
Have a good Memorial Day.
Hey, it was, I don't know if you
Yes. Thank you. So Elsie, and sorry, so we have June and Deb here in the room, and then just also, so you know, the only other person in the room right now is Chris Greenlaw, our town engineer, who has the next item of business. But so we're going to ask you really just the same questions. Maybe we'll mix up the order. June, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I would like to, so we would like to know what pertinent experience you have serving on boards, commissions, or in another volunteer capacity. In responding, what impact did you personally have? What role
Okay.
did you play?
Okay, sure. And I also want to thank you for doing this and taking your time, and it just shows your interest in this commission and in the membership, so I appreciate that. Okay, because my experience has been working for the town of Killingly and previously working for the town of Sterling, I was the Economic Development Director for those two towns. So I was the staff liaison to the Economic Development Commission. Now, we did have many different or various small subgroups or focus groups of our Economic Development Commission that I was on, as well as planning and zoning, because I went to all the planning and zoning meetings and sat with the director of planning and zoning. I did work on the POCD committee. I worked on the zoning rewrite committee. We had different chapters that we worked on. I also worked with the business advisory committee of Quinebaug Valley Community College, because I worked with all the businesses in our industrial park and small businesses downtown and all the entrepreneurs. Many of them, they came through my office and they wanted advice on business plans and they wanted advice on how to establish a business, and then they would look for a location. So anyway, because the college, the community college, we helped and assisted them to write a grant. They were one of the state's advanced manufacturing centers where they received a grant, and they received machinery and equipment, and they did a 2-semester program to help incumbent workers as well as new people that needed skills. And so I was on the business advisory committee, and I was the business liaison, because most of the people on that committee were educationally based. So I was the community member that was out in the community with the businesses. So they would say, what do the businesses need and what kind of courses do we need to teach, that kind of thing. So I would relay the information back to them. I also was on the Last Green Valley, which is the Quinebaug-Shetucket Heritage Corridor, our National Heritage Corridor. It's from Norwich and Preston north, which includes 35 towns. It includes some towns in Massachusetts as well. So I was on that committee, on their board of directors for about 11 years, and for the last year I was the vice chairman. So I was chairing the meetings when the chairman was not able to be there, and we had a board meeting once a month. There were about 25 board members on that. I've also been a member of the NEDA board of directors, which is all of the New England states. It's Northeast Economic Development Association. I was on that board for about 5 years, and then I was also our state Economic Development Association, which we call CEDAS. It's CEDAS. It's the Connecticut Economic Development Association. I was the president of that for 1 year. We took turns, and we met at Cirque in Rocky Hill usually. So there have been some others, but I don't want to go on and on. I think that mostly covers the things that I did, unless you have a question about other volunteer things. I mean, I did a lot of volunteering when my children were in school. I lived in Voluntown before I came here. So I was on, many different committees, planning events for children and students, and like the graduation committee for the high school. My kids, one child went to Wheeler and one went to Griswold High School. We planned the events after graduation, those kinds of things, and fundraising sales and those kind of things. I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask, where did you move from? So I guess you lived in Voluntown.
Yes,
Yeah.
I lived in Voluntown for 30 years, yes. And
Okay.
previous to that, I lived in Baltimore, Maryland, and I grew up in Illinois, around Chicago, a suburb of Chicago.
Okay.
I've lived here for 3 years.
Okay, yeah.
And I
Thank you.
retired a year ago, so I worked in Killingly while I still lived here for 2 years, and then this last year I've just been around around town.
Okay.
Thank you, Elsie. Deb, do you want to go next?
All right, I'll ask the next one. What is your opinion? I think you probably understand this pretty
Yeah,
easily.
I understand,
Of the
right.
responsibilities and primary function of the EDC here in Stonington.
Yes, I see it as very similar. I mean, I don't know what year the commission was established, but I know and I don't know the number of the state statute, but I know it's established by state statute that towns can elect to have an economic development commission, and it is advisory. We make recommendations to the selectmen and to other commissions. I did sit in on the EDC the other night, and they did have an engineer there representing a new business development, and they did vote to support his development. So when they go to P&Z, they will give a recommendation, and the chairman may speak to that. So that's mainly their role. And I know that they do make recommendations on financial concerns as well. If there were any incentives that businesses were asking for, probably the EDC would listen to the business first and see if they thought it was a good idea to offer them an incentive, and then they would write a memo, or their motion would go to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Selectmen would bring it to a public hearing if that's what was needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you taught us something. No, I'm kidding.
And I do have the role. We used to give our members, after they would join, we have a one-page piece of paper that shows what the role of EDC is. And I think that's a good thing to give candidates, and to just review it every so often, because it's just good for everybody to be on the same page.
That is good. That actually came up recent. I think as we talked about that we have the planning and zoning openings, and someone who is considering, like, well, do you have like a little introductory packet? And I was like, we don't. I was like, but we should.
Yeah.
So we should have one for EDC too. You're very right. That would be really helpful.
I'd be glad to help you, you know what I mean, and share information from what we had done.
Thank
several
you.
different things that we've developed if you want it. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last question, I think similar to Robert, you kind of already really addressed, but if there was anything that you feel like you missed in terms of professional experience that you wanted to share that you think helps you offer a certain specific skill set to the EDC.
Okay, well, one thing is I do have a lot of energy. I'm a workaholic kind of, and in my retirement, I just, would love to get back into some government role, so to speak. And I just think that my experience with the TIF and my experience with, large businesses as well as small businesses, and there's many things. I look at the town as a tapestry, so to speak, and I know that we need to bring balance all the attitudes and all the issues in town, as well as the excitement. The excitement of the people that have been here for a long time, the historic things we want to keep, and what do people want to keep, and what do we enjoy in town, and yet what do we want to change, and what do we want to see new here. So there's always a balance and a blend, I think. I see, and a lot of times people don't realize that economic development is very broad-based, and they say we have our fingers in almost every other commission, whether it be conservation or wetlands or planning and zoning, or there's so many things that businesses need to go through that we hold their hand and bring them through and make it easy for people and make it easy to see, that we are pro-business and we are pro-housing, and whatever we're doing in town, we're kind of like the welcome wagon. That's how.
That's so nice.
I like that description.
I do too. I'm like, ooh, it gets some more work for the EDC. No, thank you. And then, do you have any questions for us?
No, not really. I mean, Dave Hammond was great, and Danielle was great, so I've talked to you, and I'm sorry that I haven't met the other two of you yet.
No, thanks for making this work. We know it was really last minute. So like we said, our next board meeting should be in a little over a week and a half about. So we'll definitely let you know. We'll send you something ahead of time, but we'll do our vote then. But thank you so much for taking the time, and we're really excited that you're interested in serving. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, and hopefully I can attend that meeting in person too.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions, as you mull this over and see what if you missed anything or whatever. I mean, I know it's a public meeting, I realize that, but if I can clarify anything, I'd be glad to.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
And Chris, thanks for waiting. So new business. We're going to discuss the award of a bid for drainage and site improvements at the 4th District Voting Hall. So the Department of Public Works received 6 bids for drainage and site improvements on March 25th, 2021. The construction project at the 4th District Voting Hall includes installation of a tidal, box valve, box culverts, drainage catch basins, and 2 potential rain gardens. The low bid was to Tri-State Land Management Contractors for the amount of $109,525. Public Works has reviewed the bid, references, and all other associated documents, and are requesting an award of the bid to Tri-State Land Management. Chris, do you want to say anything at this point?
Just 2 things to add for the record and for your edification is that we do have money in the account. They were the low bidder and they were within budget as well. And additionally, we expect the project to commence in July because it involves concrete. There's going to be lead time on that. So good for stormwater because hopefully, you know, although the storm weather patterns are changing, we're hoping that in July and August a little bit drier. And we figure 6 to 8 weeks over that time period.
Okay.
So money in the account and construction schedule.
That's wonderful.
And the construction's going to be just on that site, so it's not going to be, you know, during peak tourist time out in the street, or is it pretty much?
It's going to be confined to the site, exactly. All the stockpile, all the construction, 100 feet of box culvert approximately, the tidal valve box, and yes.
And I was going to ask the same question because I passed there, you know, going to work, coming home. So it's like I was wondering if there was going to be detours.
Well,
so I'll be able to watch it as it progresses.
Yeah, very good question because there will be minimal. You know, as materials come in to be delivered, you know, they'll have either flaggers or police. You know, but it would be very minimal because the work is on that site. But there will be construction vehicles that at certain times delivering things, but it should be minimal at most. If that makes sense. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. And they'll have some kind of a mat or something to keep the stuff off the street.
Construction insurance, correct.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
Makes sense. My other question was, I know we talked about with the description, the potential rain gardens. How much of it is actually in this bid? Is it just putting in the culverts? Does it include any of the parking, the rain gardens? I've seen the
I
final
do have a
plan.
plan if you want to see
I'd love
the plan.
to see
Would
that.
you like to see
Yeah,
the
I
plan?
would too.
I
I was
know
wondering
it's
about the
different
elevation.
versions,
Yeah.
Yes. So it does include installation of 2 rain gardens also at the east part of the site. And there was a bid alternate we added that in the end. And we were trying for some paving. And unfortunately, that brought us beyond the monies because the impetus of the design and the planning was originally for the drainage.
Yeah.
We almost squeaked it in, but I think perhaps that's another conversation where we may revisit this as I'm aware through the director as of recent, maybe today, that we'll talk about it another time, but we will be revisiting that. Is it a fair assessment from your conversation with the...
Yeah, and I think we can say, so because the American Rescue Plan money specifically talks about stormwater management, I'd want to sit with Jim and with Chris and with Barbara just to understand, is there a way in which we can meet the American Rescue Plan sort of accounting and legal practices, but include some or all of this project? And we're just not sure, since it's already been funded, like at what point could be additional work that we are adding on for stormwater, and then and like we had talked about, we'd love for this parking area to be like a great example of a MS4 compliant parking area. So obviously the rain garden is there, the drainage is already there, and then if we do, whether it's permeable pavers or some sort of other permeable, just you know, dust, and then but we want a few spots that are handicap accessible still, but maybe that, you know, so whatever, we can play around with it, but we'd like to hopefully use American Rescue Plan money to get that and also make this like an MS4 showpiece. My favorite mandate.
And get some parking.
Obviously some parking.
Sure. I was going to bring this over here for you.
That's fine.
So what we're looking at is number 10 Broadway. So the property line, just to frame it, is right in here, this area. So as you had mentioned about
so it goes
the
this
property.
way and then
Yes,
angles.
this is the property line,
Okay.
right? And there is a fence over here. And the property grades down towards this lower area, which is also a wetland, very more flat on the south side. And what we're planning on doing, so tidal valve, impetus of the job is the tidal valve, and about 100 feet of box culvert is going to be replaced. And then we have a
Does
couple-
that stop the tide from coming in? Is that what?
Exactly.
Okay.
And perfect. And that's the idea. We have a detail for that. Very good question. I should have explained that. And so at the high tides or king tides and things like that, that would stop that surge coming back. And then water seeks its own level. Mm-hmm. So when the storm water does build up, if it's higher than the coast, it'll push it back out this way. So it's kind of like a louver almost on HVAC where you see the valve. So if the tide was on this side, they won't open. It's like a backflow preventer. And then when the water builds up here,
The pressure
the
will
head
open
pressure
it.
will push it out.
Okay.
And so tidal valve, 100 feet of box culvert, a couple of basins that are integrated into the rain gardens. And the rain gardens have a specific design that's going to intercept this site water. So again, this pavement won't be part of this project. We're going to revisit that, as the first selectwoman mentioned. And so at this time, the water that's on the site will direct to these rain gardens, and any of the nutrients or anything that, soil acts sometimes even as a flocculant, how shall I say, not nutrients, but any of the, if there's hydrocarbons, anything the soil attaches to the sand, this is going to act as a filtration before the storm water enters our tidal box or our box culvert and then goes out to the ocean. So we're excited to engage in a design for a couple of rain gardens here. And what else do we have? And then we're going to look into the future, possibly revisiting the project.
Can you describe what a box culvert looks like?
Good question. So we have pipes that convey water, and the box culvert is, I think we have a detail. Here's our tidal box. It's kind of, this is showing you from the side. So if we took scissors on this plan, and we cut along here, and we looked at that from the side at the tidal box, you can see that there's a louvered section here. So as the water backs up from the cove, it'll stop here, and then in our parking lot, when the water builds up, it'll then push out, or as the tide recedes. This is a cross section of the box culvert. So if you think of, again, if we're looking plan view down, but if we took scissors, cut it, and looked at the conveyance pipe from the end.
So it's closed. It's not an open.
Correct.
Underground, right?
It's
Yeah.
underground. Okay.
So instead of a pipe, we have a 15 by 48 inch wide box, concrete, that water will get conveyed through.
Okay.
The reason for this configuration is we're trying to get a certain design storm of water through, but we have limited height elevation because we have groundwater, tide water, and lack of cover. So we had to stretch out the box, and it has to be strong enough for H20 loading for vehicles that are going to drive over it. So not such an easy design, all things considered. Yeah.
So people can drive on it?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And what about the box culvert, though? Does that stick up a little bit out of the ground?
The tidal box will,
Tidal box,
because
sorry.
good
Yeah.
question, because it has a access hatch, so we can get in there if anything compromises
or
it.
something.
Exactly.
So
If
that
it gets
people
stuck
shouldn't drive
open.
over, right?
But that's in the middle of the
That's
rain
right
garden.
down on the end of the property, and that's off to the
I
side,
think it's
which
over
is
here, right?
over
Oh,
here.
it's over
Yeah.
Good question.
So would that
Yeah.
be kind of like cornered
So-
off?
Yeah, it's outside. You can see that the intent is, when they're done, is to reconstruct the gravel parking lot, and they're going to define a line inside of this structure to kind of keep people off of it, type of thing.
So it'll have some kind of curb or something to keep.
You know, that's a
Maybe
good point.
maybe some
You know,
posts.
just to make sure.
Just to
so
make
it's
sure people
pronounced.
don't. Yeah.
You know what? And maybe even some those metal posts to stop somebody from
Yeah.
going, because
Like up on.
plowing. So at some
Right.
point in
Yeah,
time,
I'm
if this
just-
ever gets plowed, will this just get plowed, or would the whole thing get plowed?
Good question. I was just
Yeah.
talking to the director today as far as who utilizes this structure, this building in the winter, and does it get plowed?
Yeah.
So if it does, right now, given the use, based on the question I asked, that usually now and then it gets plowed, and we were thinking, so we don't
Like
invite
here,
people, and
yeah.
maybe we just do one side,
Yeah.
It may come down to the treatment also, because if we do something with a certain permeable pavement or structure, depending on where we do it, it's going to get into the matrix of the use of the building, the schedule, and how we maintain it. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but if we used kind of a paving block structure that doesn't withstand heavy plowing, well, maybe we can do that here, infiltrate water, and then pave here, and then allow the people in for the use that need to get there.
Okay. Yeah,
And
that's
then
a
they
good
can
point.
plow the access, still have access and that type of. So we just started talking about today, real time, based on some conversations earlier. But at the end of the day,
future use of parking too, so try to kind of think
No,
ahead.
I think once this happens, I
Yeah.
think there'll be more use at that
Yeah.
site. So,
Yeah.
so just think about maybe protecting that somehow with some.
that's a very good point.
Okay.
Yeah. Even on Togwonk, we have the little plastic reflectors to keep people from going in the ditch on the side of the road by the golf course.
Yeah.
Or maybe something more solid.
Yep.
But we'll look at it.
Okay.
That's a good point. Very good point.
So how much? So the culvert, is it a 200-year, 100-year? Like how much water max can go through there?
If we had a big storm.
Yeah.
Good storm. I think we have about 10 to 14 acres of watershed that go to this because this box culvert keeps going.
Okay.
And it was designed to match the existing because we couldn't increase it because we're throttled back down on this side.
Yeah.
So if we were going all the way to the outlet, that would be something that we could have looked at.
Okay.
But we didn't have that opportunity. So we're throttled. We matched in kind because we're throttled back down here.
So whatever.
But
yeah.
it should
Whatever.
help with all the flooding and pooling of water that happened all the time on Church Street.
Because I believe,
That was
from what I understand, it was from the larger tides, king tides, and that sort of
Yeah,
thing that would
coming
back
up.
up onto that road. Right.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Chris.
right. Very
This
good.
is great, Chris.
That's great.
Thank you. So could I get a motion? Oh, hello? Sorry, did somebody want to say something? No.
She might still be on the phone.
Do I?
Oh, I'm just listening.
Okay. Sorry you can't see it. It's actually fascinating plans for the 4th District Voting Hall. Could I get a motion to award the bid for drainage and site improvements at the 4th District Voting Hall to Tri-State Land Management in the amount of $109,525,000?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion second. Any further discussion or questions for Chris?
No.
No? All right. The motion carries. Thank you, Chris. You are welcome to stay or leave.
Thank you for having a special meeting. And just one extra comment. What that does, by the way, is it allows us now, with your authorization, to award, because every week gives them an extra week to order that concrete. So thank you for having this special meeting.
No,
So
thank
I
you,
know.
Chris,
I
so
know.
much.
Obtaining materials is
crazy right now.
it's really tough right now. So.
And we can book a meeting whenever to talk about our MS4 compliant parking area.
Yeah. So we'll be revisiting.
Okay, I'm excited.
Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
All right.
very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
So-
meeting with you.
Yeah.
Any comments from the public? If no comments, then we have comments from us if we want, but again, we're not really, this is kind of a quick special meeting, so I won't really
I
share
have several
anything.
things to say, but I'll save it for our next meeting.
Yeah, that'll
I
be
can do
in
the
person.
same.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can do the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, well then, Elsie, thank you so much, and we will stand adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a good evening.
All right.
You too. Bye.